So today we're going to talk about the zone of genius. And what this is it's a really great way for you to divide up the tasks that you do in everyday work. And so it's very helpful, especially if you have employees or you're considering having employees. It's a very good way to figure out what to delegate or what to get off your plate sooner rather than later. And it's an effective way for you to also understand things that if you don't have employees, that maybe you want to outsource or maybe you want to work on getting off your plate. So if you look at the zone of genius exercise, it's divided up into four segments. There's your zone of genius right at the top, which is things you're really good at and you like doing. Then there's a zone of excellence, which is things you're good at, but you don't really like them so much. There's a zone of competence, which is things you can do, but others would be better off handling them. And then there's finally the zone of incompetence, which is really where you really want to focus on offboarding those things to somebody else. And even if at your beginning stages, you can offboard those things onto like Fiverr or a VA or something like that. Thanks, Stephanie. So when you're in your zone of incompetence, a big reason that you don't want to be in your zone of incompetence is because it sucks you dry, right? It sucks the energy out of you, and then you really don't have the creativity and energy to focus on your zone of genius. And so it's really important to try to get those tasks off your plate sooner rather than later. Most people spend a lot of time actually in their zone of incompetence versus their zone of genius because it is so time consuming and it is so draining on your soul that lots of people spend their time there, and that's where the least place they should spend their time. So when we do this exercise, we're going to spend like 2 weeks or so where we write down on a piece of paper or notes or however you organize yourself every task you do and then what zone it falls in. And then you're going to end up organizing it in like a crisscross like this fashion where you're going to keep your activities in kind of like four boxes and separate them by which zone they fall in. And you'll be surprised, and you can be brutally honest with yourself, right? And be brutally honest with others, because sometimes people want to act like, hey, I'm really good at everything and I love everything, because they don't want like maybe their superior to frown on them or something like that. But it's super important that you dig into this and be super brutally honest about things that maybe you're not super good at, as well as things that you really don't like doing. So you can get those off your plate, you can move on. So once you define your time frame, and we usually choose 1 to 2 weeks, and 2 weeks is better, you evaluate your tasks. And the time frame should reflect basically a typical work and personal schedule. So you capture recurring responsibilities, one-off tasks, things like that, so you can truly be accountable to yourself. Does anybody have any questions about this so far? No, good. Okay, so we're following along. Great. So, like, if you're doing exercise on Monday, include tasks from the past week and anticipate tasks from the current week, right? So, if you start this on a Monday, you want to look at that time frame pretty closely. Then you gather your task list and you write them down, and it's as small as responding to emails, creating a marketing strategy, holding team meetings, whatever it is you're doing. Make sure that it goes into your outlay. Can you scroll down a little bit, Jess, please? There we go. We're working in these action steps right here. So make sure all the action steps are showing. Scroll up just a little bit more, please. There we go. So you want to also include personal related tasks as well, like scheduling appointments, grocery shopping, cleaning, or household management. And the reason you want to do that is you need to understand that sometimes it's cheaper time-wise to pay somebody to do some of this stuff than it is for you to be sucked dry and not want to do it. And then it just kind of like ruins your will to thrive, basically, right? We've all been there. I know when I get involved in housekeeping stuff, I really don't enjoy it at all, and I don't really want to do it. And I also go off the deep end, and I'll start scrubbing the baseboards with a toothbrush, and I really get in my own way, and it takes me a lot longer than it should. So it's easier for me to pay somebody to do that kind of stuff than it is for me to spend my time doing it, because it will take me an entire day, and it's just ridiculous, amount of work. Some of you may find that at work, when you're getting into like say spreadsheets, which seems to be a common one, it just like sucks your soul dry, and you're trying to do this spreadsheeting or the math or the whatever, and it's just really not an effective use of your time, when you could go to Fiverr and find a human who loves that stuff and will do it for 20 or 30 bucks, right? You guys following along with how we kind of walk through this. So after you gather your task list, you categorize those tasks in those four zones, like I said. And then you estimate about how much time you spent on each of those tasks. It does not have to be to the minute. It can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You can round. But we want to know about how much time you spent on it and then determine the value level of that task to your life or to your work, right? So is it high value? Does it directly impact your business and personal growth? Is it medium value? Important but not really critical to your personal growth or your business growth, or is it low value? So there's minimal or no impact on your success. So you could just definitely offboard that and get it off your plate. Then you create your Zone of Genius table so it's all organized with the time and the value level, so on and so forth. And then you analyze the results. And then finally, the fun part is where you get to take action. So you get to either delegate, meaning assign it to members of your team if you have them, or figure out how to offboard it onto somebody else as an outsource, maybe. You automate, so you can use tools, AI, etc., to streamline the process so it takes less of your time and less of your energy. Or you can eliminate, you can just stop doing it because it's not like a high value task and it really serves no purpose and you're just kind of wasting time. I like to say that busyness is where we hide from our business. So lots of us are wound up in being exceptionally busy doing this, that, the other, and a whole bunch of that stuff is just completely unnecessary. And you really could just stop doing it. If you want to scroll down just a little bit more, Jess, so we can see step 9, please. You do the Zone of Genius exercise every quarter to reassess and readjust as your priorities in your business and your life change, because you may have scaled your business up to such an extent you have more money free, or you've hired more employees so you have more people free to even offboard more and more things. Also, more things could have gotten put on your plate in the last quarter, so that you need to evaluate, do they really belong to you or do they really need to belong to somebody else? So we do this like I said, every quarter. And then you tie this into a delegation matrix. So when you delegate stuff, you want to look at really hard at what the task is, what zone it lives in, who you're going to delegate it to, or how you're going to delegate it of those delegate, automate, eliminate, right? And then the reason that you're wanting to delegate it, and then what are the action steps for that delegation. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick for just a second and show you what this looks like when you're doing the delegation matrix. So when you do this delegation matrix template, you can see this on my screen, okay, guys?
Yeah, we have it.
Cool. Okay. You're going to want to put it together in kind of this manner. And when you're delegating, it's super important that you don't delegate your zone of incompetence to somebody else's zone of incompetence. You really want to be sure you're delegating things to your zone of incompetence to somebody else's zone of genius or zone of competence, right? You don't want to put your junk on somebody else's plate so that it becomes their junk. Because the same thing will happen. They will be in a time suck, they'll be in an energy suck, and they won't be successful. Also clearly outline what success looks like for the task. Is it timeliness? Is it quality? Is it standards? Like, what do you need out of this task? And then set a measurable outcome and a deadline for the task as well, so that you are making sure that there are expectations set, right? Because if you delegate it and don't set expectations, it may get kicked down the street. It may not get dealt with. It may not get done, period. So you want to be sure that you're setting those expectations when you're going in. Also, you may want to recommend any tools, access, background information, all those things to be sure that people can actually take that off your plate. And then make sure you monitor over time to be sure it's getting done properly, and then offer coaching and feedback as the other person who took it over is doing it. And this applies employees and outsourcing, Fiverr, any of those places. It applies across the board to be sure that, somebody's doing it and that they're doing it properly and you're monitoring it. Have any of you guys created SOPs before? And if you can't unmute, you can just go ahead and whip it in the chat if you'd like. An SOP, by the way, is a standard operating practice. So it's like the directions on how to do the thing. Cool. So Sarah says yes. Lindsay says yes. Stephanie, have you done it before? And I know you can't unmute, but it's important, as you guys know, that you get granular, but not too granular, right? So when creating SOPs, sometimes we get in the habit of just getting a little too detailed, and then something changes and the SOP doesn't really apply anymore because like one tiny step changed. So you want to be really specific about the action steps, but like not so specific that you're like right from left to right and then do this and then do this, right? You don't want to be like crazy micromanaging, but like micromanaging enough that you get all the steps in there so somebody can understand it. It also is helpful if you pair the written SOP with a video. Some people learn by reading and some people are audio or visual learners. So if you can show them along the way, it's a super great way to teach people how to do things. Other people prefer to read it and just buzz through it and do like a checklist manner for SOPs. So write a brief description of the task purpose. What do you want to accomplish here? And then write your step-by-step instructions. Like I said, typically pairing the written form with the video is the best way to do that so people can see it, hear it, and read it. Make sure that all the tools and resources are available to the person and also that they're mentioned and shown in your SOP so people understand, maybe they understand how to do it, but they don't understand the tool you're using. So be sure to teach them how to use the tool as well. So like Hootsuite or something like that, you want to be sure they know how to like properly actually use it. Or if there's a resource for them to learn how to use it, indicate that as well. Specify who's responsible for each part of the task if multiple people are responsible for the task so that they know who to go to for the next part and who to go to for the previous part. And then what is your expected outcome? So when is it due? How often does it have to be done? Are there certain things they need to know in order to accomplish it? And then one of the most important things that you need to do in your business is make sure that there's quality control. So if there's no quality control, it's really hard for you to check your own work. You'll miss stuff. You write a word twice in a sentence, you do all kinds of crazy stuff. And when you go back to read it, you don't actually see it. So it's important to have another person, if possible, look your stuff over and there's a quality control in place. And then finally, troubleshooting if there's issues, how you're going to fix the SOP, because if you don't fix the process will always be broken. So when you have problems, you troubleshoot them, then you go back and fix the process, and then you try it again. And then how do you solve problems? And then contact information. Does everybody understand that or have any questions about that? How to make a good SOP?
No
No, we're
questions
good.
here.
All right. All right. So now, how many of you guys have a hard time with delegation? I'm going to raise my hand because I do. How many of you guys have a hard time with it? Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Why? Why? For me, it was trust. I thought I could do it better than everybody else. And I truly believed I was the answer. And obviously I'm the best at it because I created or invented it, whatever. And there's no possible way that somebody else could do it as well as I could, right? Do we all identify with that? Yeah, because we're a bunch of control freaks, right? So
yeah,
with delegation matrix, it takes a lot of effort to get out of your own way to be able to delegate stuff. And there's two key things that will help you with delegating. And the first one is that 80% is good enough. 80% is good enough. It doesn't have to be 100% of what you would do because you can take it the final 20% of the way and save yourself 80% of the time, right? If you can just get somebody else to get it 80% of the way. If you feel like you need to jump in and get it the other 20%, you can still do that. If not, 80% of the way is usually good enough anyway, because nobody knows the quality of work except you, right? Nobody knows that except you. So it's like secret sauce stuff. If you can get it 80% of the way and then give it QC, it's generally good enough. So that's the first one. And the second one is that you cannot keep up with pace if you believe you have to own everything. You can't. It's not possible. You'll never be able to scale and grow. So if you can start trusting other people that they will get it 80% of the way there, that's all they have to do, then you can take over from there and you can teach them the last 20 more times than not. So it's super, super big deal and it's super, super hard to do. And I know we all struggle with it as business owners, and just as people in general. You don't delegate things all at one time. You pick one, you get it delegated, you get it running, and then you pick another one. If you were to try to delegate everything all at one time, what do you guys think is going to happen? Mayhem is what's going to happen. You're going to be trying to teach too many people or one person too much or too many people too much, and you're not going to be able to keep up with having them do it accurately. You're going to get frustrated and then you're going to take it back. You're going to be like, this is too hard. I don't have time for this. it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming them. It's overwhelming me. And then you'll keep it on your plate, even though you absolutely hate it. Yeah. How many of you guys lived in I call it a chaos goblin. I am Chaos Goblin. How many guys have lived in Chaos Goblin? I think we all have, where you're just like, I'm gonna do everything right now. Throw it at somebody. They can't do it like I can do it. Never mind. I was right. They can't do it. And you take it back. You do not want to get in that habit. First off, it ruins the people's confidence because they believe you don't trust them and you won't allow them to fail. So therefore, they can't learn and therefore you can't get it off your plate. So allowing people to fail is the hardest thing you're going to do, but it's also the biggest opportunity for people to build confidence. So you have to go into this knowing that they're probably going to F it up. And they're probably going to do it more than one time, but you're going to be there to improve the process and to help coach them through learning it completely. And then they're going to do it super well and it can be completely off your plate or mostly off your plate. And you can move on to profit center activities. You can move off to being creative and visionary. You can move off to growing the business and being sales, but you can't do that when you're bogged down with these like crazy, mundane, day-to-day tasks. It's just too much, right? Don't overestimate your time. So use it, track it using a timer or a productivity tool. So we use a tool called Timular, which is a really awesome tool that will help you with this task. And we don't get any kickbacks on this or anything. I just know that's something we use. They have a free trial, and you can use this Timular software to track what you're doing all day, every day. And it helps you really, truly understand where you're spending your time. So you're not overestimating or underestimating time because you're making a guesstimate after the fact. So rely on those kinds of tools to help you manage your time. I want to take a couple minutes here to see if you guys have any questions or anything you're struggling with that we can help you with related to delegation or related to Zone of Genius. You can go ahead and whip them in the chat and then I'll just answer them out loud for you. Do you guys have any questions or struggles you'd like to share or get help with? Esteban, your face looks like you might have something. Do you have a question or a struggle?
Yes, actually, I mean, when you talk about delegation, yes, I feel that, to be honest. And yes, I always feel like, no, I need to do everything because no one is going to do better than me. So I will do it all. And then sometimes you struggle with that because you cannot do all of that. I mean, you need help. But
Yes.
because of that thinking, um, yeah, I personally sometimes struggle in that and face issues while finding the time to do everything, um, because I feel that I need to do it all. So my
Yes.
question in this case or to you will be like more than just tracking my time and everything, how would you decide like what task to delegate, or if you do the most important thing and you delegate the thing that you believe it's easier, or what do you do
No.
in that case?
You use the zone of genius exercise and find out the things that are in your zone of incompetence or you don't like doing, even if they're super important. And then you figure out who to get those to. Because if it's something, like I said at the beginning, if it's something that does not fall in your zone of genius, chances are good it will drain all of your energy and you'll have less energy and willingness to do things you actually really love. So it's important to be really brutally honest and get those zone of genius and zone of not genius, let's just call it that. Get those zone of incompetence sounds a little rough, but get those off your plate sooner rather than later. It doesn't matter how important they are. It matters what you love and what you're good at. And you may not love or be good at a thing that's super important. And you're probably not doing it as well as you think you're doing it because you're struggling through it and trying really hard to do the thing in spite of the fact you're not good at it and you don't like it. And you'll find when you give it to somebody else that loves it and is good at it, they'll whip through it in less time and they'll do a better job. So ranking it on importance level is really not the way to go about doing that, right? It's not about how important it is, it's about whether you love it or hate it. Lindsay says, what if I'm the only one on my team? Who do I delegate it to, even if I know I'm not the best at it? And how do I get that off my plate? So, Lindsay, where we typically start with that is Fiverr. You can go find experts in things without having the responsibility of having an employee. You can find experts that do things there for a certain price to do the thing. So if you're the only person that can do Excel spreadsheets, for example, you would go onto Fiverr and you would see people and it shows their work and their rating and a whole bunch of other stuff. And you find somebody that's good at it, then you give them the project, they give you a price and you kind of pay them a one-off price for doing the thing. So it's a good place to start if you don't have employees. So you can just take these, one-off tasks or even repeatable tasks. Can you find somebody you can work with that you can just give them to for not very much money? Most Fiverr things are 20 to 30 bucks. They're not a lot of money and not a lot of a commitment. You can do it once, you can do it a bunch of times, but you only pay them for the thing that they have to do. Jess, is it better to start delegating the tasks that you think are easy or the tasks that you hate doing? I think I just answered that, Jess. If you hate it, you shouldn't do it. You're not going to be able to do it well. You're not going to give it the same effort and attention that you would because you hate it. You're just going to muck through it and try to get it over with, and you're probably not going to do a great job. Some people are really good at things that they hate doing, though, which stinks, right? Have you guys ever been in a situation where you're really good at something, but you absolutely just abhor doing it? I have. Um, those ones are a little harder to get rid of because you're like, well, I'm really, really good at it, but it just absolutely destroys my soul to have to do it. But you still have to do it. You have to get it off your plate and and give it away to somebody else, even if you're good at it, but you hate it. So don't drain your energy like that. Any other questions or feedbacks you guys have, Stephanie or Sarah? You guys have any struggles? Stephanie said, phone a friend, Lindsay. Anything else? Um, Lindsay's question was yours. Okay, cool. Yeah. There's also after Fiverr. So when you graduate from Fiverr one-off activities, when you feel like you need some part-time help or you feel like you need full-time help, but you're not ready to hire, say, a full-time like employee, there are lots of places where you can outsource virtual assistants. We happen to do that for people, but there's a bunch of other places that do it as well. So you can go to like Free Up or any of these other spaces and you can find virtual assistants where you can chunk up their time from 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours, and you can get multiple of them as well so that you can get part-time help without the full-time commitment, if that makes sense, right? You can go there, you can utilize the people. If the people don't work, you can get rid of them without, unemployment tax and all the to-dos of firing people in the US or whatever, but you can actually like have contractors in other countries do work on your behalf in time chunks regularly as well. And then after you graduate from that, you can hire full-time employees in other countries. You can hire full-time employees in America, and then just have employees that, have payroll and all the things. But there's definitely steps to getting help that start with, the one-off task style help upwards to part-time, very limited part-time, full-time, and then actual like employees. Like at our company, we have roughly 40 employees. They don't all work in the United States, but they are full-time employees throughout the world that work for our company. We don't consider them to be VAs because they're not task-based people. They're here as employees of our company. They just don't happen to live in America. So we find that to be a really great way to manage that like ascension through delegation from, figuring out what we need to delegate and then who to delegate it to. We even have a couple contractors that work with our company. For example, like our payroll company, our accounting company, they are not employees. They're companies that we contract to do the things for us. So there's lots and lots of places to figure out how to delegate. Do you guys have any final questions before we wrap this up?
Me.
Okay, so Jess, do you want to whip up the QR code for me, please? So we have uh, a QR code here. You can scan it. If you scan it, we're going to get an email address and your name from you, and we can email you over the PDF of the document Jess showed. I have 3 documents for how to do a Zone of Genius, how to do the delegation matrix, and the Zone of Genius exercise itself that we can email over to you if you guys want that. If you want the PDFs from this, just scan this QR code real quick. Then we will email that stuff over to you. And then if you guys have any questions from that email, so once you review this or whatever, you have any questions, you can feel free to shoot them back to us and we're happy to get answers for you or help or support. And I want to thank you. Yeah, how do we get a copy of this, Lindsay? I just told you. I was ahead of you. Um, but we're here to help and support you, and we'll be doing more of these in the future. So if there's also anything that you need help with or you'd like to see one of these mini seminars on, could you put it in the chat for us or send it back to the email reply if you sign up to get the email, so that we can tailor this to what you guys want to hear about. And thank you guys so much for your 30 minutes, and I hope this was valuable to you. Have a great rest of your day.
Of course. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.